Jetzt im King des Monats. Der saftig zarte Long Chicken mit großen King Pommes und Softdrink für nur $4,49 bei Burger King.
Blog Talk Radio.
In any quiet moment, when you are breathing, the breath may flow out and pause of itself, or flow in and pause of itself. Here, experience opens into exquisite vastness with no beginning and no end. Embrace this infinity without reservation. Dive into it, drink deeply, and emerge renewed. A selection from the Radiance Sutras, thoughtfully donated by Josephine. Thank you, Josephine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. This is Chrism, and today, sadly, this broadcast will have to be started without Miss Santara. She's somewhere on the back roads of Ireland. And I don't know if any of you have been on the back roads of Ireland. Oh my God, they're so narrow. They're just kind of like a shady little path that for some reason they decided to make into a 2-lane highway. A lot of the cars have scratches on the sides of the vehicles from kind of like sideswiping the bushes. It's pretty narrow. But the Irish, they get around. They know how to do it. So, I tip my hat to them. So she is somewhere between Cork and Kerry, I guess. And I offer her, thanks for her participation in putting the show online, her and her husband, John, and the extended family. And, who's this? Is this? No. And so she'll probably join us when she gets there. So today I would like to, first of all, let people know that they can get some more of this information that you're about to hear at Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com, or Chrism Kundalini on YouTube, or Facebook groups Kundalini Awakening ! Or Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Healing, and the Kundalini Radiance community. So, yes, and of course I want to bring Her Holiness Rosemary on. And Rosemary, you are in the red. Hello.
Hello, Chrism.
Hi, Rosemary. Can you make your announcement?
I certainly can. That for all the world to know that a glorious seminar is being prepared. All that's needed for our teacher to come, step in place, and begin. And we're working on that, talking to lots of people. It's September 27, 28, and my contact information, rosemaryg@usinternet.com or 651-452-3161. Thank you.
And I'd like to extend my compliments to you and your organizational skills, Rosemary, and also to Eileen Lauro and her creative and expertise, in networking. She put on the first Minnesota seminar there, and this is how we were graced to be in Rosemary's presence. So thank you, Eileen.
Indeed.
All right, Rosemary. Any other announcements? Any showings of the movie or anything like that?
Yes, there were. I think I have about 8 or 9 more to go.
What's your next one? Give us your next one, so just in case somebody.
The next one is August the 4th.
Okay.
And there might be something in there between. I'm still talking with people, so they have to get back to me. And
okay.
we are, I should say, tell people too, we are working on having places for Chrism to address people. And we don't have that complete yet either. My intention has been that would include Rochester, and that's what I'm waiting to put in place for that to take place down there too.
Technically speaking, I'm giving them addresses, right? Addresses. Little humor there.
Oh.
Okay, my dear. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now this is a serious moment. I get 2 moments every week to do this, so I don't go there.
Well, what's been your most interesting experience lately during this type of Kundalini outreach that you've been doing in the Twin Cities?
Anything in particular? I've mentioned before a couple people that have shared with me their awakening process, and it is what we know to be so. That's the major one like that. The couple new places that I've added have been the co-ops. We have a number of co-ops here in town, so that's where I have a couple screenings. And then I've been taking material there in the custom of Eileen, as she has done before, and there's one place that has just a big pillar outside filled with staples. And when I went there, I said, this isn't going to work. My goodness, the wind comes along, it'll be gone. Well, I did get a call from somebody who had picked up the information that I left there on that precarious, to me, place. So I don't know very much when it gets down to it.
Well, you know enough to get out there and do it. So many thanks to you, Rosemary, and many thanks to you as well, Eileen. And I would like to take a moment to introduce the queen, the Celtic queen of questionable comforts, especially on the back roads of Ireland, Her Holiness, Amelia Santara. Welcome to the show, Amelia.
Thank you very much, Chrism. Hello, Eileen. Hello, Rosemary. Good to be here.
So we're just getting started here, getting things moving on. Where were you coming from? What was happening to you on the road? Was it rainy? Is it rainy again?
No, it's very nice. I've been traveling down from Dublin. I had a few days away with my family. I was showing them the delights of Newgrange and the areas where we did the seminars here in Ireland. So
to refresh people about what we do, Amelia Santara and I, as we do these Kundalini Awakening seminars in Ireland. We most often now we've been doing it at a place called Newgrange, which is a Paleolithic structure of multiple interpretive qualities, shall we say. And every time we take a crew or a group of seminar attendees into the inner chamber of Newgrange, we typically get some Kundalini phenomena, such as purple lights or blue lights. Last one I saw, the last time I was there, was kind of like a 3-inch diameter blue-white star burst right against one of the stones there. One of the old, well, they're all old. Don't get me wrong, they're all old. But one of the, shall we say, less processed stones by the current scientific community. So the Newgrange experience is quite awesome, and please continue. You had an experience, didn't you, this time?
I did, yes, indeed. I went. John and my 2 younger children were with me, and when you go into Newgrange, they have artificial light. You go into a very long, narrow tunnel, and then you go into the middle of the tomb itself, or the area itself, or I suppose the temple. And inside there, when they turn off the lights, it's very, very dark. And then they artificially simulate what happens on the 21st of December, which is the light coming in through the chamber. And when this happens, you see the light coming along the floor and begin to light up the chamber inside. Well, when it goes dark, that's when I would typically see lights or sometimes sheets of colour of blues in the chamber. But this time there was no blue. I saw flashes, like little sparkles and some very bright lights as well in there during that time. And this time, every time I've gone Chrism, there has been a different tour guide. And again, I said to John and the children, I'm bound to have somebody that I have heard before. But no, it was another new gentleman. And this man left the dark for quite a long time. So the phenomena that I saw there lasted quite a long time, you know. So it was very cool. And yeah, it's a wonderful place. I love visiting it, and it was lovely to bring the children there for the first time.
There's definitely a Kundalini connection to these ancient Irish megaliths and structures.
Oh, there is, Chrism. There is. I mean,
certainly stimulates.
It does. I mean, from the moment that I go in there, it stimulates. The Kundalini is responding, the Kundalini within me, and the energy.
And how does that feel for people who don't have Kundalini? How does that feel for you, Amelia?
How does it feel for me, for people who have Kundalini, is it?
No. How does it feel to have your Kundalini stimulated?
Oh, it's very pleasant. It's very tactile. So it begins. First of all, there's an energetic response, which is a flow of energy up through my body, and then it's very tactile as well sometimes, and I can feel that going right up through. You know, sometimes it shoots right up my back. And my what happened this time as well is I felt an expansion in my heart and my head, and the awareness of the energy that is there. It's very, very ancient, and of course the Kundalini is very ancient, and there is a Kundalini connection with the people who lived there, the people who built Newgrange. It's very interesting to hear them talking about the, people who lived in the megalithic times and how they built this before the invention of the wheel. And it makes me laugh because, they have all these theories as to how it was built, blah, 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 blah. And yet it is so mathematically and incredibly technical that they had this mathematical information, but they hadn't invented the wheel. Hello? The more I go there, the more absurd it is that these people, they talk about two polar, we'll say, things existing at the same time with these people, They hadn't invented the wheel, and they were farmers, and, it just can't be. It just can't be. And the Kundalini, I think, it recognizes itself, Chrism, because that was definitely part of what was there during Newgrange. I've no doubt of that now, no doubt.
Well, yeah, I haven't had any doubts for a while with it. For me, when my Kundalini is stimulated that way, I get a real strong, solid flow of energy up the spine and radiating outwards, and you can feel it coming off the top of your head, off the sides of your head. Feeling it right now, as a matter of fact. And it's just really, it's an omnipresent, for me, it's kind of like just an inside-out glow that has a focal point, which would be the spine.
Yes, well, it wasn't as, I have had that experience stronger before than this time, I must say. This time it was more, it seems, to say low-key, but it was at a lower level, but still very, very present, but not as strong.
So are you hanging out? Are you hanging out at a truck stop right now in order to do the show?
No, I came home, so I was in a truck stop. I stopped in the truck stop to actually put up the announcement about the show on the group.
Didn't we have a conversation? I kind of like asked you to stop hanging out at truck stops.
I'm after getting so used to them now.
That's part of the questionable comfort. I got you. Okay.
Indeed. So we had a wonderful time, and we went to Noth as well, which is another another 5,000-year-old megalithic site. And maybe the next time we have a seminar, Chrism, we haven't brought people there yet, and it's a very different it's a very different experience there.
Very different energy. That's right. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Ireland is so blessed. Ireland is definitely a place to go if you want to experience primitive civilization Kundalini stimulation. It's very, very cool stuff.
And
okay.
I just one last thing that you've never been. I went to Trim Castle, and Trim Castle is a castle from the 11th, 12th, 13th century, and it is a wonderful history. But it also is where they filmed Braveheart. And so my son was very interested in that, and that was a very interesting experience as well. So it's very, very modern compared to Newgrange, but all the same very interesting, with a very, very interesting history of Ireland attached to, how that castle evolved and how that castle turned into a ruin, and the whole history of the place. So that was another interesting thing we did today.
Well, you live a good life, Amelia.
I do, and I'm blessed indeed.
All righty. Well, speaking of blessings, let's talk about blessings. Lately, a lot of people have been coming to me about having Kundalini phenomena in such a strong way that it takes their focus off of their day-to-day activities. And the first thing I'd like to really begin to have a person look at with that regard is, which one is more important to you right now? Is it the Kundalini, this amazing divine energy experience that not everybody gets to experience in one lifetime? Or is it taking out the garbage at the right time? Or is it, getting everything done on the shopping list? Or is it, is it pushing you to manage your time in a way that is different, and therefore in a way that your ego begins to resist? And because most of us in our early Kundalini awakening experience are still quite controlled by the wants and desires of the ego, the wants and desires of being at ease with life and having life be the way you want it. I was having another conversation, and some guy was saying, well, we all create our own reality, and to a degree, I can't argue with that at all. But it also, that there's a lot of assumptions behind that statement, that you even know what a reality is, that who is it that's doing the creating of the reality, what aspect of the person, it just goes on and on and on. And it reminds me of the catch-all, easy phrases that you hear a lot in the New Age communities about, let go and let God, or some other saying that really attempts to sugarcoat some of the mystical and spiritual experiences that people can have. With the Kundalini, you can sugarcoat it all you want, but you're still going to have that Kriya. There can be as many fluffy bunnies and floating, gingerbread bears in the air, sugar plum fairies, but you're still going to have that Kriya. Now, it doesn't have to be as bad as it would have been before you knew what was happening. Now that you know what is happening, all of your phenomena are going to change their reception by you as you experience them, all of them. Knowledge really is a grace within the Kundalini, and of course, I have to unfortunately I have to add the caveat, shall we say, not correct knowledge, but appropriate knowledge that has levels of truth and application, have very, very, very strong resonance within your Kundalini awakening event. It begins to mitigate the fear. Fear mitigation is one of the most important characteristics of an enjoyable participatory event with the Kundalini. If you can mitigate your fear, then you can begin to enjoy the whole process. Seriously, enjoy it. Oh, sure, you'll get your challenges. You get your challenges, but you know how to control, you know how to mitigate fear, and so you make the choices in dealing or working with the challenge or through the challenge without the ball and chain of the fear getting in the way. Okay, so fear mitigation is really, really important. So, yeah, let's validate some of the difficult things that happen within the Kundalini. Let's not try to glissando over that. Let's not try to hide it. I don't try to hide about the dark night soul for people, or Kundalini syndrome for people, or the negative aspects of entities, which really there are only negative aspects to entities. I know that's a terribly polaristic thing to say, but for the most part, they're a challenge to be dealt with rather than to be engaged in. It's a test. Yogananda, early in his career, they were traveling somewhere with his teacher, and they were in a tent, and if you've ever been to some place like the Amazon or India or somewhere, close to the equator that way, the numbers of mosquitoes per square inch are just amazing, just amazing. And so, of course, Yogananda was having a mosquito problem, slapping at him, or he didn't want to kill him, right? He knew that was wrong, so he could just wave at them, try to wave them away, and he wasn't able to get sleep, and his teacher woke up, who wasn't being bothered by any mosquitoes. He said, you just have to allow them to be away. You don't have to push at them with the palms of your hands. You just have to allow it to occur. And eventually, after many mosquito bites, Yogananda did learn how to control the mosquitoes. Of course, I don't know that he ever went to the Amazon, where the mosquitoes are of a particularly aggressive quality, but I'm sure India has some pretty bad ones too. Bad in the sense that, they're very aggressive towards sucking your blood. Good in every other respect, because they're a creation of divinity. They're a creation of God, and they're also a very substantial chain in the food chain for many different creatures, including a lot of birds and bats and things like that. So, yeah, not saying that we should get rid of mosquitoes at all. But anyway, so as these blessings come upon you, these Kundalini phenomena blessings, really begin to mitigate your fear. Eating is really good. So let's just say all of a sudden you're having waking visions, or you're seeing entities, and unlike Amelia's experience in Newgrange, where the lights go up and that's when the phenomena begins. For me, the phenomena is more when the lights are on. The lights are on. I see more phenomena that way, but that's just me. The thing with Amelia's experience over there, with Kundalini, you're going to get it one way or the other, whether it's feeling like somebody's walking on the top of your head, like little people walking on top of your head, or dancing around, or fizzing and zipping and zapping at the top of your head, and these things are going to cause you concern, but because you have the knowledge, you have the information, your understandings need not be flavored with so much fear as if you didn't know. like I didn't know what was going on. And so, I had lots of fear flavoring, certainly in the early part of the awakening. So keep that in mind for those of you who are new to this experience. You got to learn how to deal with your fear. And it's not easy, and it won't be easy. But you can't avoid it because the Kundalini will bring this stuff up. Very similar to the ayahuasca experience in that regards, where the ayahuasca experience is a tea that's brewed out of Liliana vines in the Amazon basin. It's fairly well known these days as ayahuasca or La Purga, what they call it in Spanish down there. And when you take the tea and you wait 20 minutes and you take another shot of the tea, and it's a really interesting tasting tea, ayahuasca begins to manifest certain issues that are causing you blockage or causing you, shall we say, dissonance on your spiritual path. And so the ayahuasca will come to you in a certain way. Sometimes a person will hear a voice, sometimes a talking animal, a talking snake, or a talking big cat like a leopard or a black panther or something like that. And sometimes just the plant itself give you a empathic information level. When I had my experience, the first thing I saw was a giant snake encircling the world, which, basically was, telling me this is a Kundalini world, and everybody here is striving towards having Kundalini. Not saying that everybody's going to get it all at the same time, but the striving for is the important part of the journey anyway. And so as the people go through their spiritual evolutions, life after life, they come closer and closer and closer to what a lot of the people listening to this program have right now, and that is awakened Kundalini. And that sets into place a whole different level of spiritual and physical evolution. Okay. And that evolution comes with phenomena, and that phenomena can be scary. And the fear mitigation is what I want to talk about today. Now, here's one of the things that we have is Kundalini people will sometimes have really, really excellent memories, and that is a good thing on the one hand, but on the other hand, it can be kind of challenging as well because you don't forget details. You don't forget things too easily. And this can feed itself into levels of OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, a lot of Kundalini people will have OCD. It seems to be very, very, very commonplace within the Kundalini population, and it is not the kind of OCD that I think Howard Hughes had or Leonardo DiCaprio had portraying Howard Hughes. I always wondered about that casting choice, but anyway. The OCD that a Kundalini awakened person would have is subtle, but it can be challenging as well. But once that's under control and the Kundalini is able to flow, the OCD aspects generally work themselves out. You don't need to take SSRIs or some newfangled pharmaceutical engineered, drug or chemical or solvent. You don't need to take that into your body. You can just allow your body to find its own balances. You don't need to drop a pill for every phenomenon. Not that any of you do, of course, but, figuratively speaking. You don't need to do that. You don't need to mitigate Kundalini phenomena by what different pharmaceuticals you can ingest. Okay, that typically really begins to warp a person's perception, and a person making important life-changing decisions from a warped mental and emotional perspective, given vis-a-vis these drugs, is not a good combination. Not a good combination for happiness in this society. Keeping in mind what I said earlier about always searching, for happiness. There is a middle path. There is a middle way where you can partake of happiness and not be overly attached to it. Partake of ease, but not being overly attached to it. Not doing it for aspects of ego desires. The ego, wants that candy bar, but your blood sugar doesn't want that candy bar. So, who wins, right? So the blood sugar is going to have to win, but it can be a fight that sometimes you lose. Sometimes you lose. With Kundalini knows what it wants you to have, and it will allow you to deviate to some degree, but it's always going to circle back to what it wants you to have, and eventually, what it wants you to have. It just may take you a while to get there. If you have any questions about this or any other aspect of your Kundalini awakening experience, feel free to call 347-934-0026. That's 347-934-0026. I'd like to welcome Julie and Edie G, otherwise known as Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. Hello, Elizabeth. Fast G, Guest 1613, and Mike Strong. Hello, everybody, and hello, everybody that I cannot see. I understand that Blog Talk Radio only lets me see a certain amount of people. I don't know, maybe it's just the people that are logged in, but I also understand that there are plenty of other people that are listening live to the program. I'd like to welcome all of the unseen listeners right now. I'd also like to welcome the people that are listening in the future in the archives. Fear mitigation. Miss Santara, what do you have to say about that?
About fear mitigation, it was one of the best things that happened to me. I lived for quite a number of years with fear around an awful lot of things. Now, when my Kundalini, I'm trying to cut to the point really. There came a time when I had fear, when I knew I had a choice, Chrism, to have fear or not fear, because I had experienced both. One of the things that from the very moment that I came onto the CARS group, that I read at the very beginning was, that the CARS community did not operate from a place of fear. And on reading, it made a huge difference to me. And so that was something that happened relatively early on in my Kundalini awakening.
It was beer. It wasn't fear.
Well, actually, now that you mentioned beer, when you were talking about blessings and, the different things that happen at the beginning of a process and how much time, the change that happens, and how much time do you want to give to your old life or your familiar life, and how much to your Kundalini? What's the important thing to do? And talking of beer, that the social aspect of my life changed hugely when my Kundalini awakened. That's what I was thinking of actually, and so I lost interest in continuing my social life. Not instantly, but I began to withdraw from that, and there was pressure on me to continue doing that.
This would be otherwise known as a pub crawl, right?
Well, no, not yeah. If I was younger, perhaps, but no, we would just go to the one pub and stay there all night.
Can you explain to people what a pub crawl is in Ireland?
Oh my God. I'm sure people know, but let me explain for those people who don't. A pub crawl is where you begin in the first pub and you have one drink there, and then you move to the next pub and you have another drink there. And so it continues and it continues. So you would visit quite a few pubs during an evening.
Until you're crawling on your stomach into the next pub. Yes.
Okay. It's very much part of, I mean, I'm not too sure about the UK, but it would be very much part of the culture here. And so that would have been very much part of, you know, my social scene. And you know, that changed completely when my Kundalini awakened. I just lost all interest in it. It just wasn't something I wanted to do anymore. And so, yeah. And it sounds fine. Oh, you lost interest in that. But it wasn't as easy as that because, you know, my dear beloved husband also didn't have any change in his life. He was still interested in doing that. And so I had to assert that things had changed for me. And I also at that time, you know, I wanted to be alone with the Kundalini a lot. So there was a lot of things that I had to choose, you know, at the beginning, what was important to me for the blessings that were being given, you know.
You're lucky that you got to choose.
Can you say more? How can you? When you say that, I got to choose.
Not everybody gets to choose. Not everybody gets to choose. At least from a 5 sense corporeal standpoint, from a spiritual evolution, we all choose. We all choose.
Okay.
So, but when you're having phenomena, you know, say you're in your 5 sense body, and you're having phenomena. Well, you're having phenomena that science can't explain, and you just spent, you know, somewhere, you know, anywhere from 12 to 15, 16 years of your life being told that science has all the answers, and anything else that's not science is just fantasy. And oh, well, this is happening to me, and even science doesn't say it's real, but the stuff that I read in other areas say it is. And that's enough of an imbalance to make a person feel that they're exquisitely losing their sanity.
Yeah. There would have been a lot of that before. I would have experienced that before, but not at the particular time that I'm talking about, when the fear was gone. When that everything changes once that threshold, is that the right? Probably not the right, but once that has breached the fear. Well, for me anyway, let me say that everything changed. Once that one.
Fear mitigation really is one of the most helpful things that you can do. And let's go back to my joke about beer. Beer will bring, you know, alcoholic consumption will bring on more of a causation for fear in many people. I won't say all people, because I don't think that's true. I think some people have a different resistance to it. But with Kundalini people, because the veil is already thinning, to introduce alcohol into the equation is to introduce levels of, shall we say, intrusive pests coming into your spiritual equation and giving you a rough time, at least until the hangover and then the body and the energetic anatomy restore balance to the energetic envelope around the body. Whereas if you're a methamphetamine user or something like that, you know, those holes are much harder to heal. You know, so any of those white powders you do want to steer clear of. You know, regardless of DEA or any of that stuff, you do want to steer clear of them from a Kundalini perspective. You know, the cocaines or the meth or the whatever other names they have for it. Okay. Continue, Santara, please.
Well, just about the fear, Chrism. I mean, I spent a lot of years being fearful. So when I realized and totally, when I got the teachings, when I understood what had happened to me that it was Kundalini, that other people had experienced things. When I retrospectively looked back with what the information that I was given, well then everything changed too. You know, I could never go back to the fear that was there before I had this information. It was a wonderful freedom. I mean, everybody who listens to this show and everybody who reads the teachings that you give on YouTube, or that you can come across in written form in any of the groups, when people receive that information, it must, I feel, make a big difference to their equation, because they will recognize that what is happening is a reality. You can let all the other stuff go, because you know that you know what you've experienced. And when you hear then, a validation for that, it makes a huge difference, I feel, anyway. And then again, you have the choice to either, in inverted commas now, because I understand that thing about choice, but you have the choice then that when things become very wild, let's say, or very extreme in a Kundalini context, it's not that things aren't, strange and wonderfully nutty after that. It's just the response to what the Kundalini does isn't from a place of fear. It's from a place of acceptance and not resisting and surrendering to what is happening. And it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. It's, yeah. For me,
well,
that's really my experience.
How did you get over your fear of going, say, into the devotional aspect? How were you able to mitigate those fears?
Okay, well, to begin with, devotion, because I was brought up in a Catholic Christian tradition, I had some experience of devotion. And so it wasn't totally alien to me. Now, it was and it wasn't. But I had some experience of spontaneous devotion in my own Kundalini awakening experience. So I had that. When I began my devotion, I suppose fears actually, sort of bubbled up, and I began to, how they were mitigated was I made a choice. At once, I knew I was being pulled by the Kundalini to devotion. I knew it. And when the Kundalini is pulling you, there's a certain space there for you to consider, kind of. And so you can resist a bit in that. And so I knew I was being pulled, and I knew that it was what I was to do. And so again, I made the choice to go with that and do it. And so it was just by practicing, just by beginning, by allowing what rose up to just come up and let it go and continue on. So that it was the practice of it, and it was the trust. And I trusted completely that this was what my Kundalini wanted to do. My ego wasn't so sure. And so it's recognizing in myself when my ego comes up and goes, no, I don't know now, for God's sake, this, blah, blah, blah. Just knowing that wasn't where I was going to go. I wasn't going to follow my ego. So by practicing, let's say, the Tataka, and beginning, say, with that as an example of the beginning of, which was actually the beginning of my devotional practice, continuing with that, just it was a practice. I had committed to it, and I continued with it. And so that became a process then.
Well, because of the practice of devotion, what has been occurring with regards to your Kundalini lately, with regards to your communication with it and its communication with you?
Oh, Chrism, oh my goodness, I can't really put words on it. Oh, except to say that, okay, I'll pick some aspect. The interesting thing, the thing about being in devotion is that it expands with the love within me. The love for my teacher, the love for my Kundalini is so intense and so strong. And so it is like that. For example, if John is listening outside in the other room, I don't know if he's tuned in or not yet, I think he'd agree that there is more love between us. There's more love happening and expanding into my life with my children, into my community. So that's an aspect that I feel expanding into everything in my life. And the devotion is what is it? The devotion is the reason, actually, that is happening.
Yeah.
So that's huge. Even that alone is absolutely huge. And then there's other aspects as well, Chrism, the communication between me and my Kundalini, and the different dimensions or layers that are happening for me. I'm not even going to go into the phenomena, because it's not that important, but it's phenomenal really.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
But it's really in the everyday living of my life. It's just, it's such a blessing. It's such a joy. It's incredible. It impacts on everything. And I think everybody should be devotional. Because when you experience it, you would wish it for everybody to know. And I cannot help but want people to experience it. Why wouldn't I, Well,
the same thing happens with the spinal sweep. It feels so good. Yeah. It's so amazing. You want everybody to know about it. Everybody should be able to feel this way. And then, it doesn't seem to be the case all the time.
Yeah. True.
Well, thank you for your explanation. I think that was a very good description. So as Amelia said, the practice of a certain quality for fear mitigation can bring it on. You don't want to just do something one time and expect, some sort of magical fairy dust to fall upon the situation. It's instantly resolved. We need to clean up our own messes, really, and the Kundalini will allow us, in order to learn how to use our new tools. Well, then, we get to learn sometimes how to use some of the Siddhic skills to clean up some of our ego-based messes. But for the most part, we have to clean up our own messes just from standpoint of a karmic level. What is done must be paid for, or at least balanced. And so that is never taken out of the equation. People always tend to forget the whole karmic thing, and the karmic thing is a very important thing. It will control the flavor, the level, and the power of a Kundalini awakening, even if the person's going to have one at all. It's based upon the karma. And it's not to say, like, some belief systems think that, once you have Kundalini, well then, you don't have to ever come back in a body again, and you're a saint, and you'll always get toys for Christmas after that. That's not necessarily true either. A lot of it depends on how you accept the Kundalini. What kind of fear barriers develop when it first comes to you, and how do you respond to your life based upon those fear barriers and those levels of paranoia? Are you able to scale back the paranoia? And if not, where does the paranoia send you? That type of thing. So this is why I wanted to have this show about fear mitigation. Eat food. If you're in a scary situation vis-a-vis Kundalini, say you're seeing some nasty phenomena or whatever, have a bite to eat. Have some water. It grounds you. And as ludicrous as that sounds, when you're terrified, if you just go get a glass of water, or just think of your favorite ice cream or whatever, it tends to take a bit of the sting out of the fear. And of course, the other way is, one of the ways that I state in the safeties, is to think of a time when you're happy and pull that time from the past into your present moment. Allow that memory engram to do more than one job. Allow it to live again. but allow that memory to serve a purpose for your current serenity. It's important that you have some levels of serenity. Now, it's not all about being relaxed. You know, a lot of the meditation teachers, yoga instructors, whatever, just relax, breathe, relax. With the Kundalini, they can tell you to relax all you want, but the Kundalini is going to tighten up muscle groups that it wants to tighten up, and they're going to go tight. Okay, that whole diaphragm muscular system can tighten up and stay tight, stay hard, stay tensed in a way, because of the electrical-like qualities of the Kundalini energy when it inserts itself upon the energetic anatomy, and therefore inserts itself into the neural activity. The jolt can be strong, can be sustained. I've had experiences that are like sitting on an 8,000 volt line. It tosses you. Those things can scare you. Those things can actually terrify you. Okay, as can the entities. And so you really need to go, okay, what can I use to modulate my fear no matter what? So you can use the secret smile. A lot of some of the Asian-based martial artist techniques talk about a secret smile. I think it's a Taoist technique, actually. I think Mike Strong would probably know more. The secret smile is there to keep you in a very, very specific state of mind that is not anxious, or it is not, deliberately, screwing itself up by harboring bad thoughts or hurtful thoughts or negative thoughts, things of that nature. The secret smile is used to maintain inner calm and inner purity, clarity. It doesn't mean you're lazy or you're not fast, quick on your feet. Obviously, with martial artists, you're going to have to be that way at some period or point. The inner smile. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. And so that's another option. And, what I tell people sometimes when they're seeing a lot of weird entity activities is, well, hey, just see them as cartoons. You got cartoons coming out of the wall. That's all it is. Go back to sleep. Try to see it and try to reinterpret the experience through something that is less fearful. Now, there are some entities that are out there just to scare. That is what they do. The tall guys with the pointy hats, they're great for that. But there's a bunch of different kinds that, they're fear feeders. They like to feed off of the fear that you emanate based upon them terrorizing you. So you will feel fear with them. They push it right at you. It's really interesting. Never knew that fear or a quality of terror could be like launched at you like a fear missile or something like that. And they do that. But you don't have to buy into it even then. They can explode the fear all around you, all they want. And the only person that will take it up is those who don't know what's going on, because they don't know. Fear of the unknown equals they don't know, and therefore, that fear is very much harder to mitigate. You know that these entities can come in every shape and form and disguise and whatever, and that the Kundalini will allow you to have these entity interactions in order to teach you how not to fear, how to control your fear, how to control your inner serenity. Tongue up behind your upper front teeth. If you start remembering some of the bases, Kubera Mudra is very good. Kubera Mudra is when you have your middle finger, your pointer finger, and your thumb tip all together, and your two other fingers buried into the center of your palm together. Okay, that's the Kubera Mudra. You can look that up, Kubera Mudra. That's a great one for fear. Matter of fact, if any of you are familiar with John of God in Brazil, that's the mudra that John of God uses also to mitigate healing. Okay. I would use it as when you're, in some places, not so many places these days, but in some places back then, when you were American, you were seen as kind of like a dollar sign with legs. And as you travel, as you walk, through some of these really hard-pressed areas, people were kind of calculating how easy would it be to relieve that Americano of any paperweight he may have. And I could sense that, and I could feel that. And I didn't have so much of a concern, but my hands went automatically into Kubera. And after that, I didn't really have much of a worry about any of that stuff anymore, and I never had a problem. So you can adopt a certain physical position to begin to help you mitigate your fear. And Kubera Mudra is a good one for that. You can also do Gyan Mudra. As you wake up in bed, having Kundalini phenomena, say you'll be having Kriyas. One of the most common Kriyas you'll have is the Gyan Mudra, and that's the pointer finger and the thumb tip together. Pointer finger also known as the index finger. And then the other three fingers not touching and spread apart. Gyan, Gyan Mudra, finger position. That's another way to help you mitigate your fear. Really do your best. Now, in laughter yoga, you force yourself to laugh. You'll come in from the office, say, or from the freeway or whatever. You'll be a little bit frustrated, maybe a lot of toxic gases you've been breathing in because you forgot to do the recycle air button on the inside of your car. So now you have all this toxic nitric, sulfur, nitrogen dioxide fumes in your lungs, and you're a little nuts right now. And so as you come in and you begin to do, some of these relaxing, or you say a mudra or something like that, you can just immediately adopt a mudra, and that mudra can begin to mitigate healing into those damaged areas. When you live in a big city, when you live in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, any of these areas, LA, strong levels of toxicities are breathed in, just the general atmosphere. So you do want to remember that recycle the cabin air button on your car or truck. Breathe the clean air as best you can, wherever you live. So mitigating fear will really, really begin to bring about levels of serenity and levels of calmness during some of the stronger phenomena. As you mitigate it earlier and earlier, then the stronger the phenomena that comes, you'll be able to make choices about it and learn the lessons that this phenomena is teaching you, rather than running, screaming, and yelling that, I'm being chased by this or that. Or secretly having this inner fears like, oh my God, I don't have a libido anymore. Then beginning to redesign your social life because of your libido issue that you feel that you have, because the Kundalini has come and she's using your creative energies for other reasons, other purposes within your personal transformation. But all the guys is like, oh geez, I can't get an erection. Oh my God, my life is over, type of thing. And so, yeah, mitigate the fear. Realize that what Santara said is absolutely true. When the Kundalini happens to you, everything changes. Everything changes across the board. Not all at once, perhaps. Maybe you get big chunks here, little chunks there, medium-sized chunks later on. But it all comes together into your awakening Kundalini equation. And it's never easy for most folks. Even Yogananda, wasn't easy for him either. He had to learn it just the same way you and I are learning from it. Now, he had his flesh teacher, and that is also very helpful. I never used to be very teacher-oriented, I'll tell you what. There weren't any teacher offerings at the time either, so When my Kundalini came up, there were no teachers that were saying, oh, they didn't even know the word Kundalini. Very few knew about it. And very few knew or were able to have the energetic signature that when the Kundalini came, it would amplify certain traits that were already within the individual, certain psychic traits, certain Kundalini awakened traits that came from another lifetime, having Kundalini. I haven't found too many of those. I, put out a heads up for those folks. I'd like to know who they are. I send people their way. If you have any questions about your Kundalini awakening experience, about this subject or any other subject pertaining to that, feel free to give a call at 347-934-0026. And I see Santara's gone to the blue, but she's desperately coming back into the red right now. Here she is. Hello.
I just noticed a message there from Elizabeth from earlier. She said, we must have been speaking about Newgrange, and I'd just like to say, I see the message there, Elizabeth. She says, my Kundalini started firing just while looking at your pictures of Newgrange last night. I posted some photographs, so she's saying her Kundalini started firing just looking at those pictures. So that's interesting, isn't it? From all the way where she's living, it was recognized.
Where does she live?
Well, she's not living in Ireland. She's living in America. But just looking at the photographs, her Kundalini responded.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
The same with that other big rock pile out there in England. What's that called?
Oh, yes, the not Newgrange, the other one. Yep. It's gone. Somebody in the chat room, what are we talking about, please? The one where we have the huge standing stones. I've been there, for goodness sake. Kundalini is just after taking it right out of my head. Do you know what I wanted to say too, Chrism? I mean, one of the wonderful things about not having fear is that it's to do, you talked about this, it's about the physical things that happen in my body. I mean, I remember when writing underneath my sternum, when I had a constant stitch and a constant pain where this was going on, and it went, and in my ribs, and there was an awful lot of activity going on in there. I remember having huge activity in my heart area, pains in my heart. Even recently, again, there was an awful lot of things going on in my head, and my mom died of a brain tumor, and it would be very easy for me, with what was going on in my head there for the last couple of weeks, to go into fear. But because I don't have that, and because I know it's Kundalini, it's a blessing because I don't have to go into that place. I'm able to allow these things. It's, when I'm speaking, it's not that I'm going around all the time going, whoa, this is, there's a lot of stuff that can be challenging as well. But when you don't have the fear, when I don't have the fear, it makes it so much, it's okay to have these things going on in my body. I can live with them very happily and very okay. So it's not that fear makes these things stop in the sense that they're still in the body, but the response to them is very, very different.
Yeah, it's the response that really matters. How you respond to your fear will determine how you experience your fear. And so really, do your best. If you know it's Kundalini, then really, really look up the symptoms of Kundalini as best you can. Find the information source that fits your Kundalini the best. You'll know a true source when you hear it. And, it doesn't have to be this program. It can be other people. But get that information and empower yourself during this process. It's a huge level of responsibility, of self-responsibility for us to let, some of the less constructive aspects of our ego out of the choice-making position, the decision-making spot. Okay? Take the ego out of it, because the ego will make the decisions based in fear or want or gain or attachment. I mean, you name it. It'll go for all of those qualities, where in fact we want to train it to go for the noble behaviors such as forgiveness, compassion, tolerance, honesty, things, love, things of a happiness, and not necessarily eradicating all dark, because you have to have some dark to have light, but necessarily responding in different ways that are far more positive with regards to the Kundalini agenda within the body. Now, for our friends who are listening to this, as they slumber, I would like to give them some alms. These are for you, my friends. These are for you who slumber, sleep, listen to this program. These alms are for you. Sleep, my friends. Let this information feed your Kundalini equation, whether it's awakened or activated or just seeking information to do either one. Sleep the sleep of love, sleep the sleep of peace. And we'll continue with our program. Fear mitigation is very, very important. So when you start seeing waking visions like I get to see, you see something that's happening while you're awake, right in front of you, and you know that it's of a, shall we say, non-physical quality, but there you are seeing it with your physical eyes in your physical environment. If you don't know that kind of phenomena, that can scare you. And so once again, you need to look at what it is that's occurring to you. You're having Kundalini. Kundalini is opening up places of discernment and perception that you never had before, and that people around you currently do not have. So you will see things that they don't see. You will hear things that they don't hear. You will be touched, and you will touch things that nobody else can see or feel. This is what it means to have your horizon broadened by the Kundalini. This is what it means to have some of these extra gifts that come with the Kundalini. It's not all, let's be Superman or Catwoman or Batman or some other insect person. Okay, it's not about that. It's about, embracing the skills that the Kundalini wants you to have. It knows what your karmic relevancy is. It knows that. So based upon that relevancy will determine the quality, scope, and level of the skill sets that your Kundalini is bringing to you. It's not that once you've reached this plateau, then all previous bets are off. It's not that at all. We still have work to do. A lot of work. Even after the awakening, even as we go into enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't the golden sunset where you just kind of hang out there at the edge of the world, playing around in endless sunlight, like in Hawaii. I know you guys didn't know this, but life is not that way. Certainly not Kundalini life. It's a vertical learning experience, and verticality can also bring about levels of fear. Rapidness. If you have a really rapid equation, sometimes I'll get a student, they've got the Kundalini, it's working through them, and yet they're taking such huge, huge strides. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, there's very little of a foundation occurring here. This is all basic responding to phenomena, response type of call and response. And so, I try to slow that down a little bit and get some foundation involved in their equation. And that foundation is going to require some sort of work, some sort of effort, some sort of a demand upon their time. And, they, if they're having really challenging phenomena, they typically will do the work, because the phenomena is so challenging that not doing the work is out of the question, because nothing else will work. Nothing else works except, maybe blotting out your mind with chemicals. Okay. It's something to consider. You don't want to just allow fear to run rampant in you either. Don't allow yourself to get panicky. That feeds on itself. That's like putting out the fire with gasoline. Okay. Don't allow yourself to do that. Allow yourself to find that technique that you like, maybe some of the ones that I mentioned, and keep your inner calm, your inner serenity intact. That is another excellent way of fear mitigation during the Kundalini awakening. Not everybody has the same level of emotional understanding, emotional growth, emotional information either. And so based upon those levels of information within the person as they have the Kundalini, those are the qualities of experience that will be fueled for expansion. Those are those qualities. Some of the fear mitigations that you'll find out happen to you in your Kundalini dreams. So, if you're being chased by a big black dog, red eyes, and it wants to bite you, I'm going to say, offer it your arm. Go here, bite this one, or would you like the left arm? Well, here. Would you like both arms? Here you go. I mean, really, really begin to not play the fear game. Choose serenity. When Kundalini comes to you as a giant serpent, which it does quite often to folks, it will want to eat you. Let it eat you. Offer yourself. I give myself to you, Kundalini. Offer yourself and get eaten by the giant snake. It's not what you think. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's not what you think. There's no need to be afraid. The biggest thing that you need to watch out for is making life-changing choices and decisions while you're under a huge level of fear or anxiety. Those are not constructive areas, I think, for decisions of a life-changing quality to be made. Don't just drop your teacher because they're making you work hard. They're supposed to make you work hard. Don't just, get fed up with Kundalini because your day is so long and, you got all these other responsibilities stacking up. Don't short-circuit or try to short-circuit yourself because it's getting difficult. With Kundalini, stopping doesn't necessarily ease the issue. Stopping doesn't necessarily take out the difficulty, the degree of difficulty. It doesn't. It just puts it on hold for a moment. Maybe that's what you need, that one little moment. I will suggest that you try to change your life to suit the Kundalini rather than having try to change your Kundalini to suit your life. Don't do it that way. And I understand when you have small kids in the house, little children, they're going to take up a lot of your attention. But that doesn't disqualify a Kundalini awakening event, or you wouldn't be having it and have small children at the same time. Okay. You wouldn't be having that. If anybody has any questions about this or any other subject, please feel free to call 347-934-0026. Okay. Let's see here. Somebody's talking about Washington. Let's see here. Hello, Eileen. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Tell me about you and your. How would you mitigate your fear when you were out here in California?
Oh, I didn't do very well.
Well, no. Don't judge yourself harshly. You know,
well,
we're all. So how did that change your equation? Did you make your choices out of fear? And if you did that make things better or worse?
Initially, my choices were not made out of fear, but then I allowed the fear to come. I allowed the fear to grow in me, I guess, and then the choices were made out of fear, and I feel that they were not good choices. There's been a lot of changes since then, but as I'm listening to you, I really don't think in terms of fear. I don't feel I really feel it. Every once in a while, if something's physical, it's a lot of emotional, a lot of physical things, and if something physical starts occurring in my body, initially I go, oh no, what is this? But then I remember, well, this is Kundalini, so it doesn't, so then it doesn't matter. I have to keep reminding myself that it is Kundalini, and everything that's happening is Kundalini.
That's a good
but
thing.
No, there have been times I've made some bad choices. And
you made bad choices, challenging choices.
Yes.
We all do, my dear. We all do. There's no shame in that. Well, yeah. So sometimes when we're faced, and thank you. I mean, I'm putting you in the blue. Sometimes when we're faced with really life-altering decisions. Now, Eileen, she was an East Coast girl and a West Coast girl, and an East Coast girl and a West Coast girl, and now she's back being an East Coast girl. We'll see. Hopefully that will last longer. But I think she's really kind of paid her dues in this regard. I think it's really helped her to look at her fears and to make better choices now than, of course, back when she was going from coast to coast. So once again, folks, as you mitigate your fears, so do you amplify that quality of balance. And yes, I was reading what Fauci also said about fear mitigation, is that trust is also very important. Trust is a slippery thing, though. People have to agree with you typically in order to trust you. In the common, camaraderie, friendly way that we would trust other people. For me, these days, the quality and clarity and the feelings within information is what allows me to have a degree of trust. All of that being fueled and fed by the Kundalini. You know about certain things, and so you get a very clear signal, and that also helps to mitigate your fear. So this is really what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to go ahead and end this episode earlier. I have some work I have to do outside. I can't get it done in the dark. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone for coming to this abbreviated version of our Blog Talk Radio. I'll be in different locations for the next 3 weeks. I'll be in different locations every time we do the blog talk, and so I'll have this iPad with me, and I think it'll work just fine. I'm hopeful anyway. I want to thank everybody who called in, Santara, Rosemary, Eileen, and Josephine, and everybody that's on the chat room, Julie, Elizabeth, Bashi, Guest, and Mike Strong. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and I look forward for the full 2 hours a week from today. Thanks for listening.
Herr Kahn, wie holt man eigentlich das Du willst?
Ganz einfach, mit einem neuen Samsung QLED TV.
Jetzt QLED TV Aktionsgerät kaufen und Gutscheine für 6 Monate Live-Fußball aus europäischen Top-Ligen bekommen. Über Sky Ticket, The Zone und Eurosport Player in der Samsung Sportworld App. Mehr Infos auf samsung.de/sportworld.
Nur bis zum 17. Juni.